we derive further Messerfechten techniques from the Codex Wallerstein.
This is the Kitsune clan, a group of sword enthusiasts who like cosplay, reenactment, and historical martial arts. If you have similar interests, feel welcomed.
We have looked at the techniques concerning Messerfechten as they are provided by the Codex Wallerstein, and we have finished to do so. Yet, we can now make a simple scientific move and try to predict additional techniques based on the knowledge that we already have. And for the Codex Wallerstein, we can explore two distinct aspects for doing so. We had seen that we have the disarm that we already saw in the Talhoffer Fechtbooks in the Codex Wallerstein, the one that in Eskrima, Kali, and Arnis is usually called the snake disarm. This is a disarm of the figure 4 type. That means it disarms with the blade of the opponent pointing up. The opposite would be chicken wing disarms with the blade pointing down. Figure 4 disarms can be named in this way because when the person stands with the messer in this way, the body forms a type of 4. And we have seen that in the Codex Wallerstein we find two more of these types of figure 4 disarms. One with the right arm, more used for an armbar, but we demonstrated already it can be used as well as a disarm. And one where we used the grip, and we found this one in fact twice, once as a half sword version and once as a normal version. And we also could show that you can perform this not only with the grip, but you can derive then there also that you could use the blade. Same for the one that we just mentioned where we used the blade, we could also use the grip in this instance. So how do these three techniques differ from each other? Yeah, two of them use the right hand and the other one uses the left hand. That already gives us the hint that there should be a second technique with the left hand that is also disarming in figure 4. And now we can look at the two we perform with the right hand. How do they differ? Yeah, we said once was performed in the Codex Wallerstein with the grip and once with the blade, but we could also show you can derive the missing one. So for the one that is shown with the blade, you can also perform it with the grip and vice versa. That's not the difference. What is the difference? The difference is how you enter the disarm motion. The disarm motion in a figure 4 on a right-handed partner is always an anti-clockwise motion of our own arm. And the entrance can be also anti-clockwise. That usually feels very natural. This is in fact the case for our known left arm technique and the one that usually is performed with the grip. With the other one, the case is at first a bit complicated because the entrance into the technique is clockwise and then the motion changes to an anti-clockwise motion. While this may be counterintuitive, there are a lot of situations where this simply happens, and this type of motion we usually describe as a cross motion because it goes back and forth, but the other ones we usually describe as a circle motion. So what we are lacking is a cross motion with the left hand. And if we look at the disarms, we have already discussed a bit with the derivations that there are in fact often several different versions of the disarms. I derive here now one very specific one, and that has a reason. We get an attack, we step out of the attack and move our left arm in a clockwise manner around the arm of the opponent. We grasp the flat side of the blade and now we turn the motion around into an anti-clockwise manner. That's the disarm of a figure 4, and we can wind the messer out of the hand of the opponent. That looks weird if you look at it, and it's very counterintuitive at first, but in fact this very motion is depicted in the Codex Wallerstein, but with a longsword. And the entrance, although it may look weird at first, is in fact well known in German weapon fencing, well, Waffenfechten. It is, for example, shown in the Tower Fechtbuch, in the Walpurgis Fechtbuch, so the oldest one with depictions we have. This trapping of the arm is very well known there. We lack the detail of the change into the figure 4, but the entrance we show here is well known, and therefore it would make sense to have that also here, especially as the motion is shown with the longsword. With this, we would have 4 derived figure 4 disarms in a very systematic manner. manner, covering all the principal possibilities in this direction of disarm. Why there are only figure 4 disarms and no chicken wing disarms is a bit of a mystery to me. In other Fechtbücher we will still see also chicken wing disarms. I can only guess that the figure 4 disarms are somehow faster and more direct, and therefore they might be preferred. So the other derivation that we can make is from one of the smaller disarms or locks. We have seen in the Codex Wallerstein a lock where we use the left hand to pin the messer of the opponent downwards, so chicken wing position to make this reference, by the left hand grasping the wrist and by this locking the handle of the messer, the grip of the messer downwards. We can of course also think of a motion right in the other direction. So if we look at it, what does the left hand do? It does a clockwise motion downwards, locking the hand. We can think of an anti-clockwise motion where we lock the grip of the messer from the inside of the hand. And the interesting point is this is a very common dagger disarm that we, if we search long enough, can also find in the Codex Wallerstein and a lot of other Fechtbücher. That's a very, very common type of disarm with the dagger, and therefore we can expect it also to have been used with the messer. This type of derivation is something I'm really interested, because this of course makes things easier to learn. If you have some knowledge of one motion and you can predict, so to say, missing motions, then you can use a concept from didactics that is called active learning, which means it's not finding techniques in the way that somebody shows it to you and you just imitate the person, but you can derive it from your original knowledge. By this knowledge, and also when it comes to motions and the muscle memory, although this concept has been questioned, a lot of people usually get deeper written into your memory. In the sense of, if you use active learning, these things will be deeply rooted into your brain, much more so if you just imitate the motions of another person. The Codex Wallerstein also still has a rather limited amount of techniques from Messerfechten, and we already showed that we have to derive quite a bit from the original one to get to the connections to more modern type of application. Still, it looks already much more complex than what we got from the Talhoffer Fecht books. We will continue in diving into Messerfechten, because that's an interesting subset of techniques, a very specific one that can be easily compared to modern applications or more modern applications like what we see in Filipino martial arts or also some of the Chinese martial arts stuff, which allows for more of these comparisons and predictions that we just outlined here. We hope also this further derived stuff gave you some inspiration, and we hope to see you around next time.